August 11th, 2020. A routine day at Citigroup. The bank needs to send an interest payment to Revlon's lenders. $7.8 million. Standard. Operational. The kind of transaction that happens thousands of times a day. Someone enters the payment. Someone approves it. $893 million goes out the door. Not 7.8 million, 893 million, nearly 115 times the intended amount. 6 months later, a federal judge rules that Citigroup cannot get the money back. The lenders get to keep it. Judge Jesse Furman calls the bank's error borderline irrational. Here's what everyone focused on: the technology, the system, the interface. But the system did what it was designed to do. It processed the payment. The problem was everything around it. The verification steps that should have caught an amount 115 times too large. The review that should have happened before the wire left. The checks that existed on paper but not in practice. Routine work, missing basics. $893 million. You probably do not move that kind of money, but you move information that someone else uses to make decisions. And the question is the same. When pressure hits, does your work hold? There is a week every year when everything lands at the same time. Close is not finished, Outlook is due, budget season has started asking questions. Your inbox is full, your calendar is full, your deliverables are stacking up, and the same file that took you 3 days last month now needs to be done by Thursday because someone moved the review up. You know that week. You have lived it. Maybe you are living it right now. On screen, converging timelines are a masterpiece, but in your work, they are a 60-hour week. Here's the thing most people miss. That week is not random. It is not bad luck. It is structural. In lesson 1, you learned the 4 cycles: close, outlook, plan, reviews. Today, we put them on a calendar. Close runs monthly or quarterly, the first 5 to 10 business days after each period ends. That cycle repeats all year. Outlook updates roll through the year on their own rhythm, monthly at some companies, quarterly at others. Plan and budget, that is a concentrated window, 3 to 4 months of targets, drivers, review gates. And reviews consume the outputs of all 3, monthly, quarterly, annual. Every cycle feeds a meeting where someone expects a decision. Look at this timeline. Count the weeks where 2 or more cycles need a deliverable at the same time. Those are your overlap windows, and they explain everything, not just the long hours, the drop checks, the version confusion, the deliverables that went out before it was ready because we ran out of time. The overlap windows happen every year at the same time for the same reasons, which means you can see them coming. And once you see them, you can prepare. That is the yearly cadence map, a simple one-page view when each cycle runs, when deliverables ship and where overlaps create pressure. Not a project plan, a rhythm map that helps you see the year before the year hits you. The overlap windows are where quality drops, not because people get worse, because time compresses and shortcuts feel rational. That is exactly when your deliverable needs to be the strongest. So, what happens when pressure hits and the deliverable is not built to survive it?
TransAlta. Who are we? We're Canada's largest publicly traded power company.
June 2003. Someone is updating a spreadsheet for a power contract hedge, a routine operation. Cut and paste. But the paste lands in the wrong cell. The error is not caught. Not by the person, not by a check, not by a reviewer. $24 million. CEO Steve Snyder tells the press, literally a cut and paste error in an Excel spreadsheet. You have made a copy-paste error. I have made a copy-paste error. Everyone who has ever worked in a spreadsheet has made one. The difference between your error and TransAlta is not skill. It is whether a check existed that would catch it before it mattered. Think about that. Was TransAlta's error a competence problem? Or was it a design problem? Could a different person in the same seat with the same file, the same deadline, have made the same mistake? JPMorgan 2012. The London Whale.
An autopsy performed by a major bank on one of its own disastrous trades. And
Trading losses the bank first estimated at $2 billion. Final tally, $6.2 billion. CEO Jamie Dimon's initial response? A tempest in a teapot. What the US Senate investigation later found? Spreadsheet model issues, risk metrics that were not properly validated, change control failures. The basics. Pressure does not excuse sloppy fundamentals. It exposes them.
That was a huge money gainer for them. When a business is doing well, people are looking the other way and they're getting paid. When things turn, that's when things get ugly.
But let me show you the version of this that will never make the news. The one that happens every week in every organization. Quarterly Outlook review. The VP pulls up the presentation. The regional controller opens a file. The numbers do not match. That is the old version. I sent version 4 last night. And I have something called Final 2. The meeting does not produce a decision. It produces a 30-minute debate about which file is real.
I don't get it.
Why me?
What is a business?
The review gets rescheduled. The decision waits another week. Nobody did anything wrong. The system just never defined which version matters. This kind of meeting happens in every company. Manufacturing, tech, banking, government. The version fight is universal, and the fix is the same everywhere. Accuracy is not enough. If the reviewer cannot tell what changed and why in 60 seconds, the deliverable is not finished. TransAlta, JPMorgan, Citigroup, 3 different companies, 3 different decades, the same root cause, missing checks on routine work. The headline errors made the news. Yours will not. But the cost is real. Wasted meetings, delayed decisions, eroded trust, late nights rebuilding what should have helped. Every organization depends on recurring work that someone produces and someone else trusts. Finance calls them deliverables. Other functions call them reports, packs, submissions, updates. The label does not matter. What matters is whether the trust is earned or assumed. So what separates a deliverable that breaks from one that holds? Not complexity, not polish. 4 basics. Structure. Inputs separated from calculations, separated from outputs, with checks. Open the average planning file and try to find where the inputs end and the calculations begin. Try to update one driver without calling the person who built it. That is the test. Can someone else update one number without calling you? If the answer is no, the deliverable is fragile. It depends on you being available, which means it breaks the moment you are not. Second, assumptions visible. Not embedded in cell E47. Not buried in a formula that only makes sense if you remember a conversation from 3 months ago. If it can change, it should be visible. If it changed, there should be a name and a date next to it. Third, version clarity. One current version, one frozen baseline, and a short log of what changed and why. Remember the meeting that turned into a version fight? This is the fix. What changed since last month is the most important question in any review. If the answer takes more than 60 seconds, the deliverable is not ready. Enforce a definition of done. A short checklist that answers one question. Is this review ready? Not, is this finished? Finished means you stop working on it. Review ready means someone else can trust it. 5 checks. Purpose. What decision does this support? If you cannot write that sentence, the deliverable might not need to exist. Completeness. Did the inputs you needed actually arrive? Integrity. Do 2 or 3 quick validations pass? Change clarity. Can you explain what moved and why? And review readiness. Can someone validate this without you in the room? Think about your most important recurring deliverable. The one you ship every month or quarter. The one where your name is attached. How many of those 4 standards does it pass right now? Structure, assumptions, version clarity, definition of done. If the answer is 1 or 2, that is normal. Most planning deliverables in most companies fail at least 2 of these. That is not a judgment. It is an opportunity. This might feel like admin work. Separate the inputs, log the changes, write the checklist. It is not admin work. It is decision hygiene. When your review ends with decisions instead of version files, when someone forwards your file without checking it first, when the overlap window hits and your deliverable holds while others break, you will understand why these basics are the real work. Three things before your next cycle. Draw your annual cadence map, a 12-month line. Mark when close, outlook, plan, and reviews happen for your scope. Highlight the overlap windows. This takes 20 minutes, and it is probably the first time you have made the rhythm explicit. You will again discover things like the October overlap is predictable and you can front-load preparation. Or two reviews consumes the same output but expect different formats, and nobody has noticed. Again, this is opportunity. Add this to your boundary matrix from lesson 2. Now you have who owns what and when it ships. Run a 10-minute health check on one deliverable, not your cleanest file, your most important recurring one. And then ask, can someone else update one driver without calling me? Are the key assumptions visible? Is there one current version with a clear baseline? Is there any check at all? If you find 3 risks in 10 minutes, you have found what to fix before the next cycle. Write a definition of done for that deliverable. 5 items as we said. Purpose, completeness, integrity, change clarity, review readiness. That definition of done ties everything together. The decision sentence you learn to write. The handoff check that confirms your inputs arrived clean. The integrity checks and version rules from today that make sure the deliverable survives the meeting. Which deliverable would hurt most if it broke in your next review? Not the biggest file, the one where your credibility is on the line. Start there. Your next overlap window is coming. The same deliverable that caused rework last cycle will cause rework again unless you change one thing before it ships. Not everything, one thing. The weakest check. Fix that. The rest will follow. Citigroup's $893 million mistake was not complicated. The checks that should have existed did not exist. The review that should have happened did not happen. Routine work. Missing basics. If it breaks when you leave the room, it was never finished. That is the standard. Not accurate, not mostly done, review ready. Explainable, trustworthy, built so it holds whether you are there or not. If you work in finance, this is how you stop being the person who stays late fixing files and start being the person whose work just holds. The one whose deliverables survive the meeting without you defending them. If you're watching from outside finance, you now understand something most people never see. When an organization's numbers are solid, when meetings end with decisions instead of confusion, it is because somewhere, someone built a deliverable that held. Now you know what that takes. The people who build this discipline find each other. Because when your work holds, others notice. They start asking how you do it. And that changes the standard for everyone around you. 3 lessons, 3 questions. Lesson 1. What is this world? You learn the 4 cycles and why controlling exists. Not policing, not saying no, connecting information to decisions. Lesson 2. Where do you fit? You learn the ecosystem, the boundaries, and the principle that changes everything. Own the outcome, route the work. Lesson 3. What does good work look like? You learn the cadence, the standards, and a definition of done that makes review ready mean something real. Where you go next depends on where you sit. You might deepen into operational controlling, supporting plants or supply chains. You might move forward commercial controlling, partnering with sales teams. You might grow into groups or corporate roles, connecting entities and building standards. Or you might lead. Your ecosystem position from lesson 2 shapes which paths are open. The work habits from today make you ready for any of them. This course opened the question. It did not answer it, and that is deliberate, because the answer depends on your situation, your organization, and what you want to build. You can see the shape now, the cycles, the boundaries, the standards. Most people in this profession learn through trial and error, absorbing habits from whoever happened to sit next to them, hoping they would figure it out eventually. You just started with structure, and that is not common. That is a head start. So one advice, use it.